Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in EDH. We're looking at the Foundations commanders, and today it's going to be Aphelia, Viper Whisperer. So Aphelia is a 2-mana black commander, although it does have a green mana symbol in its cost, so it technically is Golgari. It's a 1/3 Gorgon assassin with Death Touch, and it says whenever Aphelia attacks, you may pay 1 and a hybrid green and black mana. If you do, you create a 1/1 black snake creature token with Death Touch, and then, and this is the more important part, 5 mana. Until end of turn, whenever one or more Gorgons and or snakes you control deal combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. So the clear direction here is to spam the board with as many snakes and Gorgons as you can, then activate Aphelia's 5-mana ability and attempt to deal a massive amount of damage to our opponents. If you do wind up taking a look at Gorgons and snakes though, you'll very quickly realize that most Gorgons are not only not good, but tend to be kind of expensive, so snakes it is, since snakes are cheaper and sometimes come in the form of tokens. So with that said, although dealing a massive amount of damage by paying this cost is pretty good, it doesn't actually win us the game. The main goal here is going to be to combo this with something that doubles the half of the life amount of damage that we're dealing. And for that end, we're going to get cards like Blitzwing Cruel Tormentor, Bloodletter of Aclazotz, and Wound Reflection, in order so that when our opponents lose life or take damage, they actually take double that amount. Of course, we're causing them to lose half already, so they'll take actual lethal if we have any of those 3 cards on the board. Of course, even though we have that ability, we still have the problem of how do we actually attack our opponents with all of these mostly snake tokens and our commander, and that's where cards like Beastmaster Ascension come in so that we can actually attack in a way that our opponent is not able to block well. We also have Unstoppable Slasher as another card that deals half a life total's worth of damage and can also by itself combo with any of those 3 damage increasing cards. So to that end, we are forced to run more snakes than we would like to, but this is the list of what I believe are the best snakes that we have access to in Commander at the time of this video. So a lot of these are cards that just happen to be ramp spells, such as Naga Vitalist, Fanatic of Ronus, Lotus Cobra, Irachi Merge Keeper, Irachi Sustainer, Sakura Tribe Elder, and Sakura Tribe Scout. These are all cards that we can just play normally as regular ramp spells that then later in the game become able to deal massive damage with our commander. We also have a little bit of card advantage from things like Caustic Bronco, Oran Frostfang, Oran Viper, and Vizier of the Menagerie to cast creatures off the top of our deck. Some utility snakes with Prowling Serpapard to give our creatures uncounterability, Ramanov Excavator to get back lands from our grave, Skullwinder, the Snake Eternal Witness, and Enduring Tenacity, which can combo with Exquisite Blood or Bloodthirsty Conqueror. Pretty easy to just slot one of those 2 cards into the deck and then also have this card as a snake. And then finally, a number of evasion snakes. So Anaconda being the worst one at 4 mana, but it has Swamp Walk. Then we've also got Marsh Boa at 1 with Swamp Walk, Mire Boa at 2, again with Swamp Walk, and finally River Boa at 2 with Island Walk. And in particular, one of the things with all the Swamp Walk snakes is that we can run Urborg in our deck and make sure that everybody has a swamp on their field, therefore these cards become completely unblockable. Aside from that, we have a number of other card advantage spells like Bulls the Citadel, Necropotent, Skull Clamp, of course, since we're playing a bunch of X1 snakes, Toski. Bit of combos, so Exquisite Blood here in order to combine with Enduring Tenacity. This could have been Bloodthirsty Conqueror as well, or instead of Exquisite Blood. I just chose Exquisite Blood because it's less removable. We've got Maskwood Nexus and Conspiracy, since we can name Snake, turn all of our creatures into snakes, and then every single creature winds up being able to deal a massive damage to our opponent, regardless of whether it was originally a snake or not. Changeling Outcast, which is the only changeling we're running since it's effectively a 1-mana snake that's unblockable. We also have Cover of Darkness, wherein we can choose Snake, and then all of our snakes have Fear. Pretty stock land base, nothing much to see here. Obviously, we're going to want Protection to make sure that our commander is not countered or killed with removal, and so all of these cards do in some way one of those 2 things. Although one particular card to point out is Dolmen Gate. So we have some snakes that we want to be able to attack into our opponent, and it's very possible that our opponents could just block them. So this is a way to make sure that our snakes do not die in combat. There's also a number of 1/1 snakes with Death Touch for 1 mana that I ultimately opted not to include in the deck because I didn't feel that they were efficient enough, but those cards play particularly well with Dolmen Gate if you do decide to run them. This also works well with the Death Touch snakes that our commander generates. Pretty straightforward ramp spells, including all of the snakes previously mentioned. Some removal, because yes, we do need to actually interact. And then a handful of other cards that also have their uses: Demonic Tutor, Ophiomancer over here in order to make Death Touch snakes, and then finally Snake Pit. Whenever an opponent casts a blue or black spell, you may make a 1/1 snake. As mentioned before, there were a number of Death Touch snakes that we could have included in the deck, but I ultimately decided were probably not good enough. Also, some of the other snake-related cards, Mold Adder and Cobra Trap, I also decided were just not good enough, but these are all potential inclusions in the deck. So with all that said, that is going to do it for Aphelia Viper Whisperer in EDH.
Really flying the music. Okay.